All right. I know you guys are thinking we're ready already. Okay. First and foremost, I want to just thank you guys for spending a little extra time with us. I really feel for patients that have been patients for a long time, we used to do these big classes that were 3 hours long, and although we got good results and got great information to people, the number one kind of feedback we got from that was people kind of felt overwhelmed when they left, and then instead of making 1 or 2 changes, they would make 0 changes because they wanted to make 22 changes. And so as a general rule, anytime if you guys go anywhere to learn something or better yourself, just remember the rule of like take 2, 3 things at the very most that your takeaways. All the rest of the stuff is good information, and maybe it'll come up at some point, you'll remember it, but don't focus on doing 22 things, because then you're going to do 0 of them well and you're not going to get where you're at. And so the concept behind our masterclass is really to give us shorter periods of time, simple action steps after each class for people to do, and with the hope that after we're done with the 6 weeks that people are going to make a net change that's going to be more positive for them. So I feel like it's a great concept. And so this is a pretty big topic currently. It's been all the way since March. I figure everybody may be aware of the coronavirus thing, but there's a lot of things that we're learning about it and stuff that really how we can take our knowledge and our education to the next level so that we can do better. Okay, so change slides. I don't think so. Let's see if it changes now. I have power. My clicker's on. Huh? Okay, let's go from the beginning again. There we go. Balls fails. That's the computer version. What do they tell you every time? Turn it off, turn it back on, reboot, and it fixes 87% of the problems. So our goal here today is really to try to help everybody understand, first and foremost, where are we coming from. So I know it's hard to believe that between the 3 of us that we have 35 years of experience, since we all look like we're like 28. But really it's to help people restore back to have the confidence and the security to know that they're doing the right things, and then that we don't have to live in fear. And that's really kind of our purpose behind what we're doing. So, well, that's what that says. Our goal really within Max Living is to become the standard for natural health care. I think everybody understands. We're going to talk a little bit about the sick care model and stuff in a moment, but is what we're doing currently working really well? And health-wise, yeah, like, is it working well? And I don't think anybody argues with that too much. Everybody's like, yeah, we know that it's not going well. Sometimes they're frustrated because they don't know what to do differently, but they know that it's not going as good as they want it. So let's talk about some truth. How many of you guys know that sometimes the truth hurts, right? So without a shadow of a doubt, who is responsible for you being in your current state of health right now? Yes, point to your neighbor. So everybody should be pointing at who? At themselves, right? Because you're at the exact health that you're in right now because of every decision you've made up until right now, right? And you can't argue with that. If you do, it's a flawed argument. You can't argue that. You've made a decision at some point to do something that either ended good or bad or whatever, but it puts you in the state that we're in right now. And we have to be willing to take that responsibility and do something about it, okay? As we learn more of the truth side of it, we have to start to take action. I think one of the biggest things, have everybody heard that knowledge is power thing? You want to know what's completely wrong? That statement. Knowledge is not powerful at all, right? What does it have to take in order for it to be powerful? Action. It's the implementation of that knowledge that's powerful. So there's a lot of smart dead people, a lot of smart sick people. There's a lot of smart people that aren't where they wanted to be because they didn't actually take action on anything that they wanted or to try to accomplish. So I'm not saying knowledge is bad, because if I did, then why would you be here? We need to learn, but most importantly, we have to have our takeaways as we leave so that we know what we got to do to take action and start to change that so that so when we're looking at you 3 months from now or 6 months from now, we have a different a different outcome than what we have currently, okay? So what is the state of health in the United States currently? So approximately 71% of adults over the age of 20 are overweight. It's almost 72%. Okay, so that's a lot. 72 out of 100 people are considered overweight. Approximately 6 out of 10 have a chronic disease. So chronic diseases, just so you guys are aware, kind of by definition, it's a lifestyle problem. There's not very many chronic diseases that you get suddenly because it wouldn't be called a chronic disease, right? So we've got a big problem with obesity and we have a big problem with chronic disease in our society. Heart disease is still the #1 killer. Why do you guys think heart disease is still killing so many people? Stress, okay, yeah. So most people will throw out lifestyle factors. It's like too much McDonald's, stress, not enough movement, everybody sitting for a job. Okay, so that's really the big concern, right? Because, it doesn't feel like anything until when? Just have a heart attack. If people knew they were going to have a heart attack, don't you think they would go to the hospital? But that's not what you hear ever. You hear like, oh, so-and-so was driving the car and they were slumped over the steering wheel, or so-and-so was laying in bed and didn't wake up. And if they would have felt like, oh, shoot, I think I'm having a heart attack, they would probably say, well, I should probably go to the doctor because if I'm there, I got a way better chance of survival than if I'm just kind of hanging around, right? So there's a lot of evidence that shows, and I think what you said is the biggest factor in that is people just kind of have this idea that as long as I'm not currently experiencing chest pain and falling over dead, then I'm probably okay. And that's not necessarily true. We could be a ticking time bomb. You could be on the edge. You don't know, right? And it's very hard to know. And you can't blame yourself because it doesn't give us symptoms until it's too late, okay? So when we look at our disease model versus our health model, you guys understand that we live in it's a disease care model, right? And so what we want to teach people is what is the difference between disease and healthcare as far as models go, okay? So let's look at the disease model. So the disease model is what we're living in, and what it comes down to is there's no focus on how somebody got where they are, it's just that they are, and then we're going to treat it, right? Does that make sense? So how many of you guys go to the doctor on a regular basis because you feel great, everything's going wonderful, I'm just going in just to make sure that everything stays good and I get to live a long, happy life? Okay, we have one person, that's because she's in the medical field and she just shows up to work every day. No. So, but the point is that's a problem. Would you agree? Like we don't do that. And so the disease model says in order for you to go to a doctor's appointment, what do you have to have? Symptoms. You have to have something going wrong with you. And then when you get there, rather than really diving in to find out what caused that, what's the easy solution? A medication. Okay, and what's the job of the medication? Is the medication's job to cure your problem? To get rid of the symptoms or mask the problem, right? And so now, but if we're basing our health on kind of on symptoms and our symptoms go away, what do they think? I must be okay, right? I actually had a patient come in one time and declare their level of health. And when I looked at their intake paperwork, they had 7 prescription medications on there that they were taking daily. And he says, but I feel okay. And I'm like, well, I could give everybody here a whole bunch of morphine and like Quaaludes and everybody feel great, right? But it doesn't mean you're healthy, right? And I said, by definition, if you're on one medication to manage some type of a condition, are you healthy? No, because you've lost health because your body has no longer the ability to do it on its own, right? I'm having to use an outside source. And be honest with you, thank heavens in some cases that we have that, right? Like if you got a bad ticker, I highly recommend you carry those little nitro pills around just in case something goes, wonky. You can put one of those underneath your tongue and maybe it saves your life, right? So there is great value in certain situations for that. But that disease care model is really, it doesn't focus anything on lifestyle. It just says like, hey, you show up. And actually it's one of the reasons why it's so well liked and so well accepted in our society. Because if I don't have to take responsibility for my health, and I can put it on somebody else, then when something doesn't go well, what do I say? That stupid doctor or that stupid this or whatever, right? I can put the blame somewhere else. I don't have to take responsibility for it. But every one of you, when I ask you who's responsible for your health, where did everybody point? Right here. So that's not okay, Okay, it's the same thing. You know, we don't run into it near as often in our office as we do in the medical field, but it's not your doctor's fault either. Your doctor's doing the best they can given the paradigm that they have given. They do a test, they give a medication, they do a surgery, whatever it is that their specialty is. They're doing what they've been trained to do based off of what you've presented with, right? Now, obviously, when we start talking about the differences, that's a slow thing. So people sometimes say, so let's ask, does it work? And I think we've kind of come to the conclusion, but this is really important stuff. So the average monthly cost of chemotherapy ranges from $1,000 to $12,000 a month. So is that cheap or expensive? Pretty expensive, right? Average monthly cost of medication is $1,200. Okay, most people aren't aware of it because they go and pay a $20 copay or a $40 copay. But when they get a formulary or something that's not covered by their insurance, they get a rude awakening to find out how expensive that stuff really is, right? And so average cost of heart surgery is $324,000. Okay, and then the last one, average yearly cost of diabetes care, almost sounded like Wilford Brimley there, diabetes care is $9,601 a year. Okay, and here's the deal. Anytime I tell people that they really need to start focusing on their health, what is the number one excuse they tell me for not doing stuff to be healthy?
Money.
It's too expensive. And I'm thinking, wait a second, what's more expensive is, because unfortunately, can you guys see that like one person could have all of those, right? Person could be recovering from cancer, they had a heart bypass surgery, they have diabetes, and they're on a bunch of medications. Like that could be one person, which is why our healthcare system is what? The most whacked. Yeah, I agree. No, it's the most expensive in the entire world, and there's not even like a close second place. We're talking like major expensive compared to number two, more than 2 times more expensive per capita, right? Very expensive system, and primarily the reason why it's so expensive is because if emergency care, is it cheaper or more expensive? It's way more expensive, right? Like if you don't believe me, just walk into the emergency room and say, I got a fever and I think I need an x-ray, and you walk out with a $7,000 bill. You're like, what? Like you took my temperature and took a picture of my neck and I got $7,000, right? So when we're waiting for disease to show up, we have a lot of crisis in our society, and crisis management is going to be way more expensive than real health management. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about improving your health. This is a different concept, right? Because one just says, keep doing what you're doing. We don't have to have you take a lot of responsibility. Take medication, do these things, and we'll see how it goes, right? But we know that that story doesn't end well, because if it did, the statistics that we showed you on slide 3 or 4 wouldn't be as bad as they were, right? So that it's not working well to keep us healthy. And so what does a true healthcare system look like? So when we look at the health model is going to have a big word, starts with a P in it. What do you guys think that word is? Proactive or prevention, right? So we're trying to get ahead of the game, right? Everybody does it all the time in their life, all the time, except for to their own health. Who changes their oil in their car? Well, maybe not you personally, but somebody does, right? So yeah, there's like going, oh, I don't crawl underneath there and get oil. So somebody changes your oil in the car, and why do you do that? Is it because you love it? You're like, yes, I get to go get an oil change today. Or is it because if you don't do it, something more significant would happen? What will it be, less or more expensive to get an oil change or replace your motor? Yeah, motor's going to be a little bit more, right? So we just figure, well, I'll just change my oil. That way I can get more out of my motor, right? Or we can look at anything that we do maintenance on. You do maintenance on your house. You do maintenance on your lawn. You do all of these things that we maintain and we're proactive about. And the worst case scenario for most of those things is you get a dead lawn. And I don't want to be the person with a dead lawn either. But at the same point, like a dead lawn is just a dead lawn, right? When it's a dead you, that's a different story than a dead lawn, right? So we do all of these proactive, preventive things in literally thousands of areas of our life. But if you ask somebody, what are you doing each day to improve your health? You know what they tell me almost all the time? Don't even think about it. I don't know. I did walk one time. I walked to the bathroom 3 times today. Well, good thing you got overactive bladder. Otherwise, it would have only been one trip that you walked, right? So the bottom line is we have to start thinking differently about what can I do to prevent or be proactive in not getting these problems that we're dealing with, okay? So what's the answer? What do you guys think the answer is? My patients have been a long time. You should know the answer to this. How many? The 5 essentials. Okay. So in Max Living, one of the things that we've determined is that how many of you guys agree that like a sperm and an egg got together a long time ago for some of us, not so long for others, and then 9 months later, what happened? You came out like voila, right? So we took a one-celled organism and it turned into 7+ trillion cells. And by the looks of everybody sitting here, it knew where to put your head, your feet are in the right place, like things turned out pretty good, right? And so there's this thing that we call innate intelligence in chiropractic that runs the body. It runs all living things, right? And it's there for you. And is it trying to harm you? No, it never will. It will never try to harm you. It's always trying to do what's best for you. Now, sometimes it feels like it. You know, if you like went on a bender for the weekend or something like that and drank too much, you may feel really bad the next day, but your body's still just doing the best because at least you didn't die, right? And the liver's like, man, I'm trying to keep up here, but I didn't let you die. So it was a better outcome. Yes, you're going to have a nasty headache and be pretty groggy and who knows what else. But the bottom line is it did everything it could. It's like, man, quit messing with me. You know, that's really what it's saying most of the time is it's like, I tell my patients all the time, if you don't like the way things are going, then treat your body differently, right? Because it's not because the body woke up and it had a vendetta against you. Then wake up and said, you know what? I'm just angry at Jacqueline today and I'm going to see what I can do to irritate myself. It never does that. It's always doing the right thing. And so the answer, what we found is that there's 5 major areas in our life that interfere with the expression of what we call innate intelligence. And if the body's always trying to do the right thing, then how many of you guys know that your mindset matters, right? So we have what we call our Max Mind Essential, right? And this is huge right now because we're dealing with a major epidemic. And so are most people living in nice, calm, relaxed times, or are most people stressed out to the gill? And even if they're not afraid of COVID, they're afraid of losing their job, they're afraid of they're afraid of, and it's creating disastrous mental health problems right now in our society. You know, there was a great thing that I watched this morning. The guy was saying, we got to stop talking about the number of people dying from COVID because that's not even important anymore. What's important is the number of people that are dying because of mental illness and all of the things and the missed cancer screenings and the missed this and the kids that aren't in school and they're falling behind and they're not getting what they want. Got a couple teacher patients and they're like, in the current formula that we're doing, there's no way we may be able to get 60% of what we need to teach a kid in the time that we're given right now, maybe 60%. So if we, and this is, you know, kind of year, we ended last half of last year. And now if we do this all, that's a year and a half where the kids aren't getting what they need. And then when we go back to normal school, they're going to be expected to do what? Jump right back in. Is there going to be a struggle there? Yeah, right? So we're having huge side damage going on in our society and all we hear about from our governor is what? We have 242 cases in the hospital. Well, I think that's important. I'm not trying to belittle people dying, like don't take it that way. But the problem is like we're focusing on one thing and there's literally 30 things that are probably at this point more important and we're just ignoring them because it's not, unfortunately, it's not for the agenda. What is the agenda, right? And if we can keep people fearful or whatever, it just wrecks us. So we have to be able to change our mind, right? The next one is our spine. So for the chiropractic patients here, that one, everybody better know. I mean, we quiz you on that stuff. You guys, if I ask you the question on what a subluxation is and you can't tell me, we're going to have a problem afterwards. You're going to go to the principal's office when you're done, okay? So, yeah. So we know chiropractic plays an important role. And the best thing that I tell, how many of you guys have heard me talk about Christopher Reeves before? Okay, I think everybody has, right? And the reason why is because when he fell off his horse and broke his neck, it squeezed his spinal cord about 1 centimeter, put pressure on it. How did he function afterwards? He didn't, right? Quadriplegic, no arm or leg movement, on a ventilator, on a pacemaker, you know, like couldn't go to the bathroom on his own. Like all these things had to be done for him. Thank heavens for the advancements in medicine when it comes to that stuff to keep people alive, right? And so why did that happen? Because he damaged right here, the brain could no longer talk to the heart and the lungs and all those things, and they didn't know what to do. They're just kind of hanging out. They're breathing on occasion. But if I would have started doing, if he could have done burpees, his brain would have had no ability to tell his heart to start beating faster and his lungs to start breathing harder because it wasn't connected anymore, right? And so for somebody to think that I can have poor posture and I can have these weak and distorted things and I don't, and it's not going to impact my health-wise, it's just bad thinking, right? And then number 3, we're going to talk about is nutrition. So how important is nutrition? Very important, right? It's something that people don't like to talk about much because Is healthy nutrition ever fast, convenient, and easy? Typically not, unless it's an apple. Like the original fast food was pretty good. It's apples, bananas, oranges. That's pretty fast. Just grab it and go, right? But the bottom line is most people are doing processed and all that stuff, and that's going to have a negative impact. Okay, just Dr. Zach was just showing me this morning that today, if for adults, the average person sits for 7.7 hours a day. That's the average. Okay, now there's a lot of people that don't sit for work at all. Like, you know, if you work at Amazon in the warehouse, you're not sitting at all, right? You're running all day. So that's the average, which means in order for it to be average, there's a whole bunch of people sitting how long? A lot longer, 12, 14 hours a day, because there are some people that are literally, the only time they're sitting is when they're in their car for 25 minutes getting to Amazon or wherever they work, right? And so we have to understand that we have a huge problem with lack or sedentary lifestyle, right? And there's an actual genetic requirement for movement. So when you say, I'm not going to work out today, it's not a big deal, you're telling your body, I really don't care about you, because your body says, demands and says, there is a genetic requirement for movement. If you don't move, I will get sick. Okay. And then the last essential is toxicity. We could do a full 6 masterclass just on toxicity all alone, right? There are so many chemicals in our environment, and we've got to do a better job of cleaning all those things up so that we're not taking them in. We do have, luckily, we were graced with a liver and a kidney and all these organs to help us filter these things out. But I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't designed to be in 2020, right? It was designed more like, 1900 or whatever, but we've added so many chemicals and so many things into our society. And quite frankly, the liver and the kidneys and all, they're kind of like throwing the white flag up on occasion saying, dude, settle down. Like, I can't do it all, right? So this is why we have to start being conscious of these things and try to get them out of our life. We can never get them all out. So we just have to be conscious and do the ones that we know we can control. So overcoming fear starts with you having confidence that if I'm doing the right things, I'm going to be a healthy person, right? Fear is what gets people into the state that we're in right now, where we're still shutting down. I just heard today on the radio that they're starting to advance the idea of shutting down the economy again because we're seeing these spikes. They talked about it here in Colorado. There's a press conference today, and they said, governor says if the numbers keep going up, we're going to have no choice but to dramatically alter the way people are living again. And it's like, well, hold on. We got 200 people in the hospital. We have 1,800 beds, like ICU beds. So we're not at capacity. And, wasn't it interesting that at the beginning of all this, we talked about flattening the curve, 15 days to flatten the curve. Well, how is your, 197 or 220 days to flatten the curve going, right? So the initial goal was, they even said it. They said, there's no way we're going to stop this thing. A virus is a virus. And if you think you can stop it by wearing a mask and social distancing, you slow it down a little bit, you cannot stop it. There's no viruses that ever just say, you know what, heck with it. We're done. We're taking it. We're done. You guys are too good. We're stopping. They never do that. They're going to continue to be there, and it's going to continue to spread until we hit herd immunity, right? It's the way that it is. And so we started off with this concept that we're going to slow the spread. We can't overwhelm the hospitals. And you know what? Even me, who's kind of like really concerned about some of this stuff, thought maybe not a bad idea, because I don't want to be the person that gets it really bad, and I go down to the hospital and they're like, sorry, no bed for you, right? Like, that's not what anybody wants. But once we realized that it never happened, then it was like, well, wait a second, we need to start changing our idea. And so what they did is they changed the narrative. The narrative's no longer about flattening the curve. We haven't heard that term unless you hear people joking about 15 days to flatten the curve. But now it's what? It's the number of the 3-day rolling average and all of these things, the number of cases, the number of positive tests. A lot of these people are having positive tests. They don't even have symptoms, right? But it's logged as a positive test. And then we find out that many of the quick tests that were being done, horribly inaccurate. False positives almost to the point where 50% of the time, like, you might as well not even take the test because it doesn't know. You can get a negative. And if they didn't have false negatives, so if it was negative, it was negative, but there was a whole ton of false positives, and people would get that positive, and then they'd go to the doctor and get the brain inspector one, and when they got done, they'd come back, oh, you're not positive. Oh, so this test said I was positive, but this one said I'm not, right? And so there was all this stuff, but we changed the thing to this whole number thing, and then, like I said earlier, we're starting to lose track on how important all of the collateral damage is of what we're doing, okay? How much you guys understand the importance of facial expression in communication and being able to see people and know that's how connection happens in our world. And when everybody's, masked up and they, we got masks and shields and all these things, like that affects us. And so we've got to get confident in what we're doing, not because we're going to be foolish. Like, don't go around licking handrails and stuff like that. Like, don't be foolish. Don't go sneeze into people's mouths. It's not about those things. One of the things that I think, I was listening to an expert talking. He said, listen, he was against mask mandates. And the reason why is he said, at this point, people are aware. If we would have done a mask mandate for like 3 weeks and then took it off, people would probably went right back to their old way of living right away because it was too short of a time. He says, the fact that we've been doing this for 7 months now, people, even if you took your mask off, I bet you every one of you without a mask on, you're more conscious today of being around people, or if somebody was coughing, or like, it's terrible to have allergies this time of year and all the smoke that we have, right? You sneeze and everybody's looking at you like you got the plague, right? And so everybody is more aware. And I honestly think, like, if we got rid of the mask mandate, that people would be responsible, you're always going to have crazy people, but you know what? They're there right now anyways, right? And so you're going to have people who are going to be respectful of those things because it's been going on for 7 months. And so if I'm allowed to take my mask off, I'm going to say, like, it's kind of like getting out of jail, but I'm still on probation. So I don't want to do something foolish. So I got to put the mask back on. So I'm going to behave a little bit better. And I feel like that was, kind of where we're at. Now, that's my opinion. But I feel like that there was a really good purpose behind this guy talking about this. And what it would do is it would lessen fear for us, right? We don't have to be so scared. And so she looks pretty tense. So over the next 6 weeks, tonight we're going through the basics and setting the stage. Next week's going to be, the next ones they're all great, but we're going to be dealing with viruses, the coronavirus, and we're going to talk and dive more into what viruses are, what is it, and how do they live and perpetuate and all that kind of stuff for us. Then we're going to spend week 3 on cancer awareness. Cancer is still the #2 disease killer in our country. Poor cancer and heart disease, man, they're not even getting a fair shake anymore with being scary because of coronavirus, right? You never hear about them. But there's still a ton of people, unfortunately, dying of those other diseases, way more than coronavirus, by the way. Then we're going to focus a lot on nervous system, and we're going to look at how the nervous system is directly connected to immune function. Okay, it's something that we know is true, and a lot of you guys, we've been talking about it. And we show you research that says every time we get an adjustment, it realigns things. It allows the body to function and optimize itself better. Okay, then we're going to go into next level nutrition and detoxification. So what are the nutrients that I need to get into my body in order to make sure that my body is functioning well? And then again, detoxification. How do I avoid the toxins and poisons that are slowing things down? And then the last week is the fitness plan. That one's going to be a fun one. It's designing and helping people to move. Okay, I don't care what it is that you do, but the option of not doing anything isn't an option, right? You got to do something. So when we talk about mindset, we've talked a lot about that so far. But have you guys ever heard that saying before? This plan to prepare or prepare to fail, right? There's a couple different versions on that. A failed plan is a failed, whatever. But it's very true. Too many people kind of go through life and we're just kind of going along and we'll just say, well, I just deal with it as it comes. That's a terrible idea. That's the disease care model idea, because when are you dealing with your heart disease? When you have your heart attack, right? Just deal with it when it comes. That's a bad plan, right? But if I prepared, and one of the things that we've talked about until I'm blue in the face is tell everybody, like, get up 15 minutes earlier, okay? And I know some of you guys get up at ungodly hours, and I apologize for that. But it's still a good plan, right? Because you have to, if you had an extra 15 minutes to wake up, not be rushed, and actually visualize and say, what do I got to get done today? I know I got to go to work. I'm going to be there for 8 hours. And then I got this I got to get done, and I got to get Jimmy to soccer, and I got to do this. And if you planned your day out, do you guys realize that your day goes the way you planned it most of the time? And if something pops up, like I got a flat tire, it's not that big of a deal, because I'll switch this with this, and I'll get AAA, they'll fix my tire, and then I go on, and I don't have to have a meltdown, stressed out time. But people that are running late, if you want to start your day off well, oversleep, right? Get up in the morning, get in your car, having your hair a little bit crazy, who cares? Like that all those things. We have a Jeep, so that's the Jeep hair don't care, those little signs that are all over, right? And then we're going to drive like 72 in the 40, and then we're going to flip people off and honk the horn at them because they're only going 45, but that's too slow for you because you're running late, right? And so how's your day going so far? Really fantastic. And then you're stressed out and you get to work and your boss is like, yeah, way to go. You're only 15 minutes late today. And now all of this stuff is just wearing you down, right? And so 15 minutes early means I get up, it's calm, I have a little bit of time, I don't have to be in a rush, I can leave for work, I can just go like 5 over. Most cops won't pull you over for going 5 over, but 5 over on the way to work, right? And I don't have to be stressed out, and I can get to work on time. I don't have to worry about my boss, writing me up and saying, hey, 2 more lates and you're out or something like that. And then that's going to put a little financial stress on me because I don't have a job anymore. So there's a lot of things how it all just happens. So take a moment and plan something out for your life, right? Set some goals, okay? Set goals, and I guarantee you, you don't have to hit every one of them. But if I set a goal to do something pretty big and I only made it halfway, I'm pretty happy with that because I'm halfway better than if I would have done nothing if I never set the goal, right? So you're always going to be better off as long as you're making good goals. Don't make goals like get unhealthy and sit around all day, because that one's easy to accomplish. Everybody accomplishes that one, right? So on the chiropractic side, I was joking a little bit earlier, but somebody tell me what a subluxation is. Disconnection or misalignment. So through traumas like physical traumas like car accidents, stuff like that, or the one that's almost more epidemic today, which is sitting and looking at phones, sitting on computers all day, all of these things, this chronic stress allows the bones to start to shift, and then it weakens our posture and distorts our posture, right? Once our posture starts to distort, then like if my head goes forward like this, I can't just stand this way because I'd fall down. So then I start contorting my low back. And you guys know, I would guess, I don't know the exact number, but probably 80 to 85% of my patients that have chronic low back problems, it's more to do with their head and neck than in their low back. Because I could be the best chiropractor in the world, give them an amazing low back adjustment, and then their head goes like this, and then what's their low back going to do? It's going to move into some funky position to compensate. The low back's carrying a lot more weight, and when we get dysfunction, it leads to arthritis and degeneration and all those bad words, right? And so you just have to understand that structure is very important to the function of our body, right? And if we just allow that and just stand like this, it's not like we've done studies, the medical people did studies. When my workshop class, I actually talk about that. I can't remember the year, it was 1957, I think. They did a study on posture that actually showed that posture lowered your quality of life and shortened your lifespan. Those two things seem pretty important to me, right? Like, I not only do I want to live a long time, but I want to live a long time. I want to do stuff. I don't want to be in a wheelchair or in a nursing home and just kind of breathing and existing. I want to live. And then, and back in the 50s, they studied it and found out that posture was this leading indicator of it. When's the last time you were at your doctor and they were like, I'm really concerned about your posture. We should really look into fixing that. I've never heard anybody say they did that, right? So how can you do research on something like that, show that there's a direct connection to these things, and then just ignore it for 60 years, right? Isn't that kind of ridiculous? And unfortunately, the reason why is because in their world, is there something that comes in one of those amber bottles over there that fixes posture? Oh, yeah, sure, right? If there was, you'd be a really wealthy person, right? But there's not, right? So you have to actually take some responsibility. You got to take some action and do some things for yourself if you want to fix it, right? Which is what all you guys are doing while you're here, right? Yeah, we just battered that one. We're skipping to the next one. Okay, so when we talked a little bit earlier, what the definition of health, it's interesting because would you guys agree that we judge our health on how we look and feel in our society? Yeah. Like there's a certain look of a healthy person, there's a feel that you should have. And if somebody doesn't look and feel well, there's many people that are judgmental of that. They're like, oh, look at that person, they're not healthy, that kind of a thing, right? And I just had a patient this morning, she's like, I really want to go to the pool and go swimming because her joints hurt, she's very overweight, and she's like, but I have body shaming complexes because I don't want to put a bathing suit on and go to the pool, right? At the rec center or something like that, because I know what people are saying and thinking. And although that's a sad state, I told her like, hey, buck up, kiddo. Again, who put you in the state? I did. So I got to take some responsibility to that and say, you know what? What I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and say that today, because in 6 months, you're going to see me and you're going to be like, dang, that lady's actually sticking to it and doing something, or that guy's actually doing something about it. And then you can become the person that they're like, hey, I remember when you came here 3 years ago and you were a train wreck, and now you're like a locomotive moving down the tracks, right? Because things can change. And that's the difference in the mindset. I think the reason why some people get stuck in that is because they're afraid. They've tried it once or twice before, typically, to get healthy, and they have failed. And so they don't want to put themselves out there again because they're afraid of what? Afraid I'm going to fail again, right? And the whole point is, as long as we fail forward, then we're still going to be in a better place than we were when we didn't, right? If we didn't try at all. So we got to just keep moving down that path. So interestingly enough, that the definition of health, if you look it up at the World Health Organization, and if you look it up in Webster's and all that stuff, it talks about it. Health is the definition is about how your body functions and heals, not looks and feels, functions and heals. And so again, what controls all function in our body? Thing between your ears, right? Tells your body everything what to do, and how does it do it? It communicates through the spine, right? So why is nervous system important? Because it controls everything, and that's the definition of health: functioning and healing. How does your body function, and how does it heal? All right. Who likes radishes? I love radishes. Yeah. So nutrition. So how many of you guys understand that if I have I'm not up on racing, but so I'm going to say Jeff Gordon. I think he retired, but Jeff Gordon's car. Okay. So I got this souped up DuPont race car, number 24. It's got the top, everything in it. And I go down here to Maverick. I put some of their ethanol 85 in that thing. How's that thing going to run? Yeah, it's not going to get up and go like I need it to. I got to put like 200 octane in that thing, the racing fuel stuff, right? In order for it to perform properly. It's the same thing. We're expecting our bodies to perform at this high level and have good energy and do all these things. And we're just shoveling in bad food to it, bad nutrition, bad resources. I'm putting 85 octane in when 140 octane is required. And then we're wondering, why is my energy bad? How come I'm this? How come I ache all the time? My joints are inflamed, all that stuff, right? And it's because we got to put good fuel into our system if we want it to go well. So poor diet is a major source of interference. So we talked about we got to remove interference out of our life, right? So I'm not a fool. I would love to have that right there, that donut, right? Actually, a bear claw. If I'm going to do it, I'm going bear claw, okay? But the bottom line is that I can't have that as my primary fuel, because I know that although I can get some quick energy out of it short term, it's destroying things in my body. It's making me pre-diabetic. We already got 100 million people pre-diabetic or diabetic in our society. Out of 300 million people, like a third of them are diabetic or pre-diabetic currently in the US. And so we have to understand that when we're putting this into the fire and trying to see what we can get out of it, it's never going to burn hot and get energy and the stuff that we need out of it. So we have to make some changes. One of the things, and the simplest thing, we used to teach a program was called Body by God years ago. And one of the statements in there is just said, eat food by God instead of food by man. Okay. And that's a real simple way of looking at it, right? Because, God didn't make fruit juice. He made fruit, right? And fruit by itself is pretty good for us because it's got fiber and stuff in it. But when we have fruit juice, we took everything out of there that was supposed to be good for us, and we just drink the sugar, right? And somebody, I told it, somebody brought up honey. They're like, well, the one thing, like honey is sugar, right? And it's, it's the way it's natural, so I should eat honey. And I'm like, well, God put bees all around honey for a reason, right? Keep you away from it so you don't eat it too much. Maybe you get a little drop every once in a while. But so if we ate things the way that they were brought to us, then we would be a whole lot better off. And you know what, to be honest with you, you don't have to get all crazy on what you're doing, right? Like in the 70s and 80s, we went through the no-fat revolution, right? Snack whale cookies and all these things in the 80s and early 90s and all this stuff. Unfortunately, you guys know that all that research was paid for by who? The sugar industry. The sugar industry paid for the research to say that the fat was the problem, okay? So everybody went no fat, low fat, everything was non-this. And what happened to heart disease and cancer and all those things in our society? They went up out of control, right? Because we were just feeding the body full of sugar and inflaming it, creating chronic sickness and disease, right? And so that can't ever work that way. And so when we take food the way it was intended, you can actually simplify it, because we went from that extreme to now the rage is keto, right? 70% fat. And that can be healthy for you as long as you're eating the right fat. Don't do dirty keto, okay? Dirty keto is I'm having chicken wings and bacon all day, right? There's nobody that says that that's healthy for you long term, okay? Even if you're eating uncured bacon, right? Like, we're not supposed to eat fried foods and all that stuff all the time like that. So you can do a healthy version of keto, but that's not near as fun. It's eating avocados and olive oil and stuff like that. And they're like, no, that's kind of boring compared to chicken wings and all that stuff, right? So just remember, if you ever get caught up and you're like, well, I wonder if I should eat this, what should you think to yourself? Was this food by God or food by man? Because as soon as man gets involved with most things, what happens? We screw it up. We took something that was a pretty good creation and we screwed it up, right? So this is the next thing. Count chemicals, not calories. Okay? That's another simple thing for you to remember, right? I don't need to be as worried about calories and all that kind of stuff, because calories in, if they're quality calories, it actually makes a difference. It's not necessarily calories in, calories out like people think, right? And people can attest to that, because there's some people that are trying to lose weight and they're like, I'm eating 1,000 calories a day. I burn 1,000 calories on doing my elliptical or my rower every day, and somehow I'm not losing weight. And I know my body's metabolizing when I'm not rowing. Like when I'm sleeping, I'm still burning some energy. How come I can't lose weight? Because it's not calories in, calories out. There's toxins, there's all kinds of things that are holding on to things and storing things and making it to where your body won't shed the weight as fast as you want it to, right? Not to mention, we're not going to go down this, but it's got to do with your gut biome and all kinds of cool stuff. And that kind of gets into the deep stuff. But the reason why that's important is because things like glycophosphates and nitrates and phthalates, what do you think that does to your gut health? It destroys it, right? Glyphosate is what's sprayed on, that's the Roundup stuff, and it kills everything in its path, right? So when bugs eat it, their intestines explode, right? So we eat it, our intestines don't explode initially, but do you think it's good for us? No. And then when you're eating it all the time, you're getting high doses of it eventually because of accumulation, right? And so your poor body's thinking, man, it's waving the white flag. Can you knock it off, please, for a little bit? Give me a chance to recover. But we don't do that, and it starts leading to all kinds of chronic illnesses and ulcerative colitis and rheumatoid and all these autoimmune disorders that we see going on in our society. Replace the processed foods, okay? Somebody, when I first looked at this picture, I was showing it to a patient, they're like, well, is all sausage bad and all that? Well, no, like there's natural stuff that's not preserved with nitrates and all that kind of stuff that you can have on occasion. Way better for you than, you guys know that like summer sausage and all those things that are nitrate preserved, like bacon and stuff at the store, unless you get uncured. Like if you go to Europe and you buy that, do you guys know that there's a sticker on every package that has nitrates in it that says not fit for human consumption? So they can still sell it to you and you can eat it, but they are required to put a sticker on there that says not fit for human consumption. I saw it when I was in Ireland. I went to the store and I'm like, look at this. Somebody told me about this. I'm checking it out. Sure enough, big orange sticker, not fit for human consumption on it. Okay? It's still bad that they sell it to you. It's like, well, if this isn't fit for human consumption, you shouldn't.
It will say unrefined or
uncured. So if you see uncured, that means that there's usually not using nitrates and nitrites and stuff like that to preserve it. And that's going to be a way better version of whatever it is. You can buy uncured bacon, you can buy uncured sausage and stuff like that. The number one thing you need to know about it is those are all heavy duty preservatives. Because like sausage, I mean, you can leave a thing of beef jerky that's had nitrates on it, for 37 years and then eat it and it won't kill you instantly, kind of a thing. So, because it's so well preserved. So if you're not getting things that have preservatives and stuff in them, then what does that mean? They'll go bad faster. Like there's no doubt, if you guys have ever gone and started buying organic produce, it does not last in your refrigerator as long as the conventional stuff, because the conventional stuff's got all kinds of chemicals sprayed on it to help it stay crisp and firm longer, right? Doesn't mean it's good for you or it's got more nutrients or anything like that. It's got less of all those things. However, it'll stay looking better longer, right? Do you guys know, for example, like when you're looking at red meat, what should the color of your red meat be if it was natural and the way it's supposed to be? Right, more brown, right? More brown, but nobody likes that. You see a brown steak at the store, what are you thinking? Phew, that's for somebody else. I want the bright red one, right? Which they use all kinds of additives to make it bright red. And I know in Walmart, you remember they used to have those ones that were filled super with air. You could poke them and they'd pop, like little plastic containers. They actually inject nitrogen into it because it makes the meat really red. And everybody's like, oh, that's a good cut there. Look at how red it is. And it's just chemically derived to be red like that. So, all right, daily essentials for men and women, okay? This is a pack that we recommend for most of our patients because even if we're trying to do all the right stuff, we still probably got holes, right? Unless you are an absolute black belt ninja diet person, you probably got holes in your diet, okay? And what did we learn? So when President Trump, whether you like him or not, we're not going to throw tomatoes or anything like that, but when he got diagnosed, what is one of the things that they said he was doing? He was taking what? Vitamin D. He was taking vitamin C. He was taking melatonin and zinc. And you know what's kind of funny? Remember back in March, I did a little video series of what I tell everybody to take. Vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, melatonin, because we knew those things would help with viral problems. And so now, granted, he did some other things too. He did the monoclonal antibodies and different things like that. But you have a guy who's kind of old. He's not in the best physical shape. He's obese. He's, all these things. And he's out in 3 days, right? Without, other than being a little bit tired or whatever, seems to be doing okay, right? And so maybe there's something to those things. And the good news is like the daily essentials, it has all those things in it at the minimum levels that you need to try to stay healthy. Okay. And so like I've been taking it this entire time. I don't take that one. I take the individual bottles because I like to take a little bit more than a couple of them have in it. But the bottom line is that, I'm just doing things not because I like it. Do you think I like, spending extra money on more nutrition supplements? Not necessarily, right? But I know it's part of what? My investment into me, right? So I can stay healthy. If I got exposed to corona, who knows, right? I've never produced any symptoms that I was at, but I could have got exposed maybe back in April. And maybe I was one of those people who never had a symptom. And now I have immunity to it. Who knows, right? I haven't went and got tested. And so the bottom line is we got to do the right thing so that we can set our bodies up for success. I think we've talked about that, maybe strengthening your immunity. Okay, we're moving on to the next slide. Okay, our toxins. Really what it comes down to is the most things that you can buy that aren't in boxes, the better off you are, right? And there's an O word called organic, right? And what does organic mean? Right, so they can't use pesticides and herbicides and different things on these products. It also means typically to get things to grow organically, it takes a little bit more work because you actually have to care about your soil. Okay, like in corn, like the GMO corn, they just run these nitrogen machines that injects nitrogen in the ground right before they plant, and it'll grow corn. There's not a single nutrient in that thing. It's just simply sugar. That's all pretty much corn is anymore, is just sugar, right? That's why it's in everything. It's super cheap. You don't think corn's in everything? Go look at anything in a box and you'll see corn or a derivative corn in the label somewhere, right? It's even crazy. Like I'm getting wild rice, and what does it have in it? Corn. I'm like, why is there corn in my rice, right? But that's the way it is. It's literally in everything. So we have to be aware of that so that we can know how to make it better. So avoiding toxins, the easiest way to do it is to do as much as you can organically. Eat free range beef and chickens, and try to eat cold water fish. They used to always say from the Pacific Ocean because the Atlantic Ocean was really dirty because of New Jersey. But and that's still true within reason. But the Pacific Ocean now has some radiation in it because of the whole Fukushima meltdown thing. So they're tracking the radiation all the way over to the United States now. So maybe we should but farm raised fish isn't good. So some people are, well, I'll just go to farm raised fish. And those farm raised fish are fed these food pellety things that nobody knows what they really are. They grow really big and fast, and they're full of all kinds of bad stuff, right? So wild caught fish, very important. So just using those buzzwords to try to help yourself make better decisions. Bucket theory. Here's a trap with toxicity similar to all of the things we talked about when we base our health on symptoms. Is everybody here has a bucket in their body. Their cells are these little buckets, and they can take some toxins for a while, and you have no idea that you're even accumulating them because I don't feel anything. It's not until the buckets start to overflow that you feel things. Okay. And here's the deal. You could be living in a house with 4 other people, and everybody in the house has different sized what? Buckets. Because that's the one thing that I hear all the time. I have somebody come in and they're like, I got this terrible sinus stuff going on. I'm like, you got mold in your house. No, I don't. Well, how do you know that? Well, the other 3 people in my house, they don't have the same problem. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. You got a smaller bucket when it comes to mold spores, and you're producing symptoms. Go do a mold inspection. They come back. What do they find? Yeah, I got mold in my house. Oh, jeez. But and I understand why they think it. Like, who wouldn't think that, right? But so there's this idea again that we can get away. We're getting away with something, constantly getting away with something, and you're not getting away with anything. It's accumulating, and eventually it's going to overspill. And when it does, we start getting symptoms. Then everybody freaks out about it. right? Now everybody wants it to change yesterday. And it can change with detox and doing the right stuff, but it's not changing yesterday. It's going to take some time because it took you some time to accumulate them as well, okay? The one that nobody likes talking about. How important do you guys think oxygen is for our bodies? Very important, right? And if you didn't do, like, if you just think of exercise as a way, part of what it does is it creates what's called an oxygen debt because you're working, and then it makes you hyperoxygenate afterwards, as you're recovering and stuff like that. And this is all good for us. It's good to put those types of stresses onto the body because the body strengthens itself and recovers from it, okay? So there are some good stresses, and this is one of them. Now, not all exercise is equal into what it does and how effective it is, but don't get caught up in it because, like I do CrossFit all the time, and CrossFit isn't probably for most people, right? I can tell, Julie or something, I was like, hey, let's go do CrossFit, and that's not the right decision, right? But what is the best decision? Whatever allows me to move without torturing me and creating a bunch of pain, and know that anytime you start moving, you haven't moved for a while, what are you going to get some of? Pain. So don't be aware, or don't be, and actually every study shows that if you continue to move, guess what becomes less? Pain. So even when you have that initial kind of it sucks period because my joints hurt and all this kind of stuff, if you'll keep moving and get over it, every study shows that long term you're going to have less joint pain. And not just the exercise pain, we're talking in general, I'm going to have less joint pain. Okay? So these are good things for us to be doing. We talked about exercise being essential. This next. So what is the best type? So we have short duration, high intensity. That's the Max T3 that everybody has their little, either if you're a long-time patient, you have a CD. If you're a newer patient, you have the little bookmark that gets you the online access to it. It's a bunch of workouts that you can do at home that allows you to be able to move. And it's 6 minutes, 12 minutes, pretty short periods of time. So you can't give me what is your excuse. I didn't have time to do it. I'm like, you don't have 6 minutes? If you don't have 6 minutes, now we got to sit you down. We got to work out your schedule. Right? Because that's stupid. That's too busy, right? And then we have classic cardio. Again, something's better than nothing, but they've actually shown that classic long duration exercise actually has a tendency to potentially weaken immune system over time, right? So you got to be a little bit, the long distance people and stuff like that, they're actually, because it raises cortisol levels because it's a chronic stress. We really think back to the old days, people weren't running marathons for fitness, right? You ran really hard to catch the buffalo that you just, stabbed. And then you stopped and you rested for a little bit, and then you drugged the buffalo, and then you rested again. And so it was kind of this burst training type of stuff. People didn't just say, hey, I'm just going to go for a jog back then, right? Because they had to save up their energy to go chase buffalo, right? And so our body was really never designed to do that kind of stuff. And so as a result, it's still better than doing nothing. If you love to run and it's your Zen place and you get peace in your mind, then keep running because there's probably some really good mental health for that, okay? But understand that you got to do something, okay? But if you have a choice and you can do something that's going to create short duration, higher intensity stuff, that you're going to actually get more physiological benefit out of it and immune system support out of it. So next week, we're going to start, or we're jumping into viruses. Now this week, we have homework each week for you guys, okay? Well, we didn't tell you that before we had you to sign up. Are you kidding me? We would have had 2 people here tonight, okay? So everybody's going to get handed one of these. It's really simple, okay? What I want everybody to do, we just covered our 5 essentials. And I want everybody before next week, you're going to write a goal for each essential. So what am I going to do mindset-wise? What am I going to do spine-wise? What am I going to, and for some of you, if the spine one should probably be make up visits that I've missed and actually do my home rehab, okay? Especially the ones that have been here for a while. I'm not a fool. I know what happens, okay? We got to call them out on the rug on occasion, right? So, truth, exactly, okay? So we're going to do that. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to have an accountability group for people, okay? So is everybody on Facebook here? Okay, if you're not, welcome to the 21st century. No, I'm actually not a big fan. If you guys understand that, like all the social media gurus, they don't let their kids on, their kids are not on Facebook and all those things because they know that it's all mind control stuff, right? So if you're going to use it, just understand there's a reason why, like when TikTok became like really popular, there was they did this TikTok thing of these people that'd be like, honey, I'm going to bed. And then they'd be up there for like 3 hours on TikTok. And then they'd come up and they'd act like they're going to sleep. It was like this TikTok video. And the point of it is they know what they're doing, right? They know that if you scroll through a TikTok thing really fast, you don't see many of those anymore. But if you stop and watch something, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of Joe Biden, not speaking coherently or whatever, because you stop and watch that for 2 minutes and it knows like, hey, you were interested in that. And so immediately it changes the algorithm and it starts showing you more of that. So then you get up there and you're trying to go to bed and you're watching this and it's like, oh, well, here's another one. Here's another. And then pretty soon it's been 2.5 hours and you're freaking all tired. You're exhausted. They knew what they were doing. They got you hooked in, right? And then there's a few ads in there to try to get you to buy stuff. But the bottom line is that you got to be careful with it because there's no question at all that it's mind manipulation stuff, right? You guys understand, like you can talk, like we could be talking tonight. If I had my phone sitting here and I said something about zebras, I log onto Facebook, guess what? I got zebras on my freaking thing. Like, dude, I didn't Google zebras. I didn't do anything about zebras. I just simply said the word zebra and suddenly I got advertisements for zebras on my phone. I'm going to have some, because my camera's live. And yeah, so the bottom line is we got to be careful with that stuff. But so let's use it for what it was kind of initially intended. I think initially the intention behind a lot of this stuff was good. And then it got into a money-making business. And, now the wealthiest people in the world all own these companies. So we're going to use it for good. We got an accountability group and you're going to get assigned to a leader in your group. And we're going to have interactions on that group and we're going to post things for you guys to keep you engaged. You can post questions into the group. You can do all of those things so that you have the ability to stay in contact. Because how many of you guys know, like if you have a workout partner that you know that if you don't show up to the gym, that you're going to get in big trouble, how more likely are you to show up at the gym? Way more. Whereas if I'm going to work out by myself and I'm like, you know what, I don't feel like it tonight. I'm sitting at home eating Cheetos and whatever, right? I'm not going to do it because I don't have an accountability person. So we need some accountability in life. Every one of us do, right? If we didn't, every one of us would be living the life of our dreams. We'd have our dream job. We'd be married to our dream person. We'd have dream kid. Everything would be dreamy if it was just simple like that. But it's not. We need some accountability. I'd raise your hand if you've ever thought that there was something that you should do and you didn't do it. Everybody better raise their hand, right? So we need accountability in our life in order to help ourselves. And so that's the purpose of the accountability group. So you guys will be getting that assigned to you tonight as well. So that way you'll know who's in your group and you're going to have a leader who's going to be in contact with you. We'll probably do some text messaging to our little groups, and then the big group is more for the general support stuff, okay? Our goal with this, guys, is when we get done with 6 weeks, everybody here should be in a significantly better place in their life health-wise. Okay, that's really the goal. And it can happen in 6 weeks if we will all come and play, right? We got to come and play. If you come in and you're just doing the bare minimum, then I'm sorry, your changes will be way less than somebody who's taking it seriously, right? So just be committed, take that next step so that we can get you where you want to go. Because is there anybody here that cannot think of a health goal that they would like to accomplish? Hopefully everybody has at least one thing that maybe if I had a little bit better health or I had a little bit better this, I'd be able to do this and get back to doing what I used to do, right? And if we can have those things and we can get those down on paper, we can help you keep moving towards those, okay? All right, so any questions? Okay, so you guys, if you turned around, all these people are staring at the backs of your heads. No. So the staff's back there, and they have your guys' stuff for you. So so you can head back. They'll call off names, Ari, if you want to tell people where to go. Get your little form. Don't tell them where to go like that. Tell them what person to go to. And so that you can get your piece of paper, and do your homework. Okay, we'll be asking people to post some of your goals on the website to help other people out. Maybe somebody's struggling with a good goal for this. And they're thinking, oh, I can't do any of this. And then because Leslie wrote something down, I'm like, you know what, I can do that. And so it helps people. That's part of the community. Okay. So we'll go get that done. And then we'll see you guys next week. And we'll have some interactions in between now and then. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you guys go with, everybody get your names called, and the people that are still sitting here are on my team. So that's how we'll know, because I don't know who's on my team. Okay. Oh, I don't have a team. Sweet. Oh, I'm just doing this part. Yeah. You guys just get to listen to me babble for. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you guys got something out of it, and I'm excited to see where we're going to end up. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Oh, 1 second. For those of you guys on the live feed, we will be doing a group as well. We'll give you access to the group. We do want you guys to be engaged. We actually had obviously a small live audience here. We did have some no-shows come that didn't make it tonight. And so if you are interested in wanting to maybe do the live group and get a little bit more out of it that way, just put your name down in the comments, and so that we'll invite you you can come to the live sessions if you're interested. If not, we got a good core group and we're fine with that too. But I just know for myself, I always do a little bit better when I have some true accountability behind what I'm doing. And so let me just wrap up by saying, you guys, thanks for joining us, and I hope you guys got something out of tonight. And I just look really forward to diving into viruses tomorrow or next week, and kind of really digging in and understanding how our immune system works and how it overcomes these things literally every day for us. All right, guys, have a great night.